ground from where it's at and lead us to a better path. And when I was first contacted about potentially running for district attorney, my thoughts were, no. I have a past, that many have a past. And, you know, the reality of the situation is, in the entrenched power that constitutes Erie County, John Flynn is crossing doors. They love him. They don't care. Namely, those in power don't care that in his 4 years in office, he has not prosecuted not one police officer for a crime that they committed against a person of color.
That's not right!
According to Mr. Flynn, not just the Buffalo police, but any cop in Erie County, police in Erie County have a perfect record, unblemished, when it comes to their encounters with people of color. Is that right?
No, that's not!
That crimes against people of color by police officers are happening on a daily basis. And I was a DA for a long time, and I was part of that predatory system, and I did things I'm ashamed about. And I lived with regrets. And I took an ends justify the means approach. Cops versus robbers. Good guys versus bad guys. And I cannot sit here and announce strongly enough how wrong that perspective is.
Woo!
And then when I got on the other side, I saw stories for what they really are. And I saw people for whom they really are. And people are not just what it says on paper. People are not their worst moments. And yet, when they're prosecuted with crimes, they are reduced to what it says on paper. And we have a system that right now takes from the poor, profits off the poor instead of empowers the poor. If you look at what's going on, and Dominique mentioned some police officers that violated her rights. And in fact, there's one, my client right now, her boyfriend, Morgan Eaton. He was violated by John Davidson and Officer Gary. If you have seen those names, if they sound remotely familiar, that's because they have more, or almost more, internal affairs complaints than anybody else. Okay? But we have a system that entices and encourages police officers to profit off of ripping up the Constitution and making unconstitutional stops, violating people's rights, stop and frisking anybody and everybody until maybe a dime bag of something falls out. And then, hey, if it doesn't, we can put one on them. How do they profit off of it? How does it all work? Court pay. Each dime bag, each bag that they take off, you know, somebody on the street on a given shift becomes an arrest, becomes time, they can come to court. And then when a defense attorney challenges that stop and moves for suppression, they love that too, because they get more and more court time. We live in a system right now in which these minor crimes, if you want to call them that, I don't consider somebody putting some poison into their own body a crime. It's a public health issue, and it's up to the grassroots activists, it's up to the neighborhoods to embrace addicts, to empower these addicts, not to put them in cages and allow police departments to get fat, to get rich off of persecuting these individuals.
Amen! Woo!
Other counties have lists with officers they will not put on the stand because they know that these officers lie. And yet, when it comes to Erie County, when it comes to John Flynn, he puts them all on the stand, and he allows officers like John Davidson, who has planted drugs, John Davidson, who has found pills, not knowing what they are, writes them up as cocaine, they come back as boric acid, women's hygiene. He doesn't know, he doesn't care, and that's what we're doing right now. That was a case involving Dominique, as a matter of fact.
That's not right!
Officers do. If I were DA, those officers aren't getting anywhere near a stand. They can take a seat. They can take a seat in the holding center where they belong.
Woo! Amen!
Talking about schools, we're talking about neighborhoods devoid of opportunity because where is the money going? It's going to the pockets of the John Davidson. It's going to the pockets of those in the system who are ripping people off the street day after day, time after time, and ripping apart families. We need a complete and utter reallocation of funds. If I'm district attorney, we do not prosecute minor crimes. We do not prosecute drug possession. We do not make mandates that people attend their drug courts and therefore continuing to put money into these systems that we know do not work.
Woo!
We're prosecuting people for possessing drugs and putting tens of thousands of dollars per case into these officers that show up time and time again for court.
Woo!
They get their slip signed, and then they slip out the doors, taking money from the taxpayers, taking money from the schools, taking money from those who need it the most.
Amen!
We need a complete reallocation. We need a complete reprioritization of what we're investing in this community, and what we need to invest in is the people. And what we have to take money away from are the systems that oppress those people at this point in time.
Woo! Yes, we do, Matt Albert!
My clients that I love, I have clients in the holding center that are family to me right now, that tell me they love me every day when we speak at night. Some of the more talented and bright and engaging and wonderful individuals you will see. But they were born into poverty. They were born for the family business. Instead of teaching them the ABCs, they were taught to work the corners. They were taught to make the count for the drugs and things like that. These are people devoid of an opportunity. And since then, as opposed to being empowered, as opposed to being insisted, they have been preyed upon. As opposed to getting them the opportunities in school that they need, they go to the worst schools, with the worst teachers, by and large, because they're not encouraging or enticing skilled teachers to go into those neighborhoods. They need to. That's where the grant money has to go.
All schools need to be good schools!
Why should the Clarences and the Amherst, get all the fancy laptops
Amen!
simply because of the property taxes?
Woohoo!
That's a caste system.
That is.
That's a caste system. There's some people who love this country, Well, why wouldn't they? This country, when it comes to your wealthy white men of privilege, it's their playground, essentially. They can do as they will and profit, find more ways to make money. Opportunities come at them left, right, and center. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not too far removed from that background. And as I said, I did things in life that I regret. I'm a flawed candidate. Should I run for DA? Why allow my skeletons to boogie out of the closet when I've done such a hard, when I've spent so much work burying them in that closet and fighting and working day in and day out, for those who need it the most and offering those services and running an animal sanctuary. But the reality is, because it's not about me, it's about us.
That's right!
The reality is, this is supposed to be a democracy, and people aren't supposed to get crossed doors because they throw money at this campaign and go to this chicken dinner and everything else, and they're in this club and they don't have anyone that's going to, raise a voice of dissent. And they've got a corporate media that's not going to say that John Flynn has not prosecuted a person of color.
You are so right, Matt Albert!
Tens of thousands of people of color. He has not prosecuted a law enforcement officer for a crime against a person of
You're
color.
right!
And there needs to be someone who's going to say those things. There need to be people who are going to speak for the downtrodden and who are going to try to empower those who need it the most. As a DA's office, it won't be about statistics. It wouldn't be about putting people behind bars. It's going to be about improving the communities, one way or the other. That's going to mean working hand in hand with grassroots activists to know what's going on in the communities and seeing what we can do to serve them, to serve the public. It's going to be about not prosecuting any low-level crimes and therefore trimming, the bloat, the excess fat off of this budget, and thereby encouraging unconstitutional policing such as stop and frisk. It's going to be about doing away with those practices.
Woo!
It's going to be about having a legitimate public integrity unit. So if a cop commits a crime, it's going to be treated no differently, and it's going to be given the same due deference, due diligence, as if anyone else commits a crime.
Amen!
Thank everybody for this opportunity. As I said, I've got warts. I'm not a perfect person by any stretch, and I haven't passed, but what I can promise you is that I'm sincere in my beliefs. I'm sincere in my desire to serve in any way possible to bring about the change that is needed. I cry on a regular basis at the injustices and the tragedies that befell those that, the innocents. As an animal lover, I know Dominique mentioned, but Adam Arroyo, it was a wrong house search warrant where he served his country diligently, and he got a Purple Star for fighting in Iraq, and he came home and wanted to do nothing but mind his own business, and that's what he did. But he happened to live at Grant and Breckenridge. at his house and they kill his best friend. And I found out that way, the hard way, that, why are they shooting these dogs? Do they hate dogs? Not really, not always. They go home and they pet their golden retrievers in the suburbs of Aurora, So why are they doing it? Because they can't shoot the owners. They want to, but they can't. It's too much paperwork. It's a dynamic of power and control.
Yes, it is.
It's oppression is what it is. And it's just one means of oppression that are exercised, not by everybody, not by every cop, but by way too damn many of them. And they create a system where one cannot hold those officers accountable unless you carry a horn. Unless you're willing to give up everything, to stand up for what you believe in. And I mean everything. Your pension, your life's work, your job, your occupation, your reputation. Unless you're ready to give all that up, you need to just get in line and honor that thin blue line and honor that code of silence. That's not going to fly anymore. If the police aren't going to report themselves, we're going to listen, to those in the community that are making reports about them. And we, by that measure, by not putting them on the stand, we are going to render those officers obsolete. In the meantime, we're going to find police officers that are in it for the right reasons and doing the right things for the community. And those are the people we're going to empower. When it comes to schooling, we're going to take those cops out of schools.
Yes, we are.
There.
Woo!
The priorities are all jacked up. You've got schools that look like prisons. You've got animal shelters that look like solitary confinement. And yet, you've got police vehicles, militarized, Humvees and everything else, and all their garb and everything else that comes to them that's worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. It ain't right. It ain't right. We're going to empower the community, and we're going to fight back and dismantle these systems that have oppressed those communities for so long.
Yes, we are. Thank you. Woo!
Like I said, it's a long shot campaign. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it's not just about winning. Winning would be phenomenal, but if nothing else, things need to be said.
Yes, they
And
do.
I'm more than happy to say them. If anyone wants to assist, I'd be honored. We have a very sophisticated technological system in which one can volunteer their services by texting the word yes to the number 713. And if anyone who's interested,
Get your phones out. Get your phones out.
get your phones out, no pressure, but anyone interested,
Little bit of pressure.
713-5150. 713-5150. I thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. It really means a lot. I thank Dominique, the talented and absolutely wonderful Dominique, for believing in me enough to give me this privilege to speak before everybody.